Introduction: The silent lines above. Every day, tens of thousands of planes crisscross our skies. To most, they're symbols of progress, the lifelines of a connected world. But for millions of others, they're signs of something darker, lines that stretch, thicken, and linger long after the aircraft vanish. These are the chemtrails, or so the believers claim, the markings of a secret global program happening above our heads. They say what we're seeing isn't harmless condensation, but a deliberate act of atmospheric engineering, spraying unknown chemicals for weather manipulation, population control, or worse, mind control. The sky, they say, has become a battlefield, invisible, global, and ongoing. And we, the people, are the test subjects. When the theory took flight, the first whispers began in the late 1990s. People began noticing that the contrails, the condensation trails left by aircraft, were behaving differently. Instead of fading in minutes, they stretched across the sky, forming strange grids, X's, and veils that turned bright mornings into hazy afternoons. Local newspapers started receiving letters. Meteorologists brushed it off. But on early internet forums, especially those dedicated to UFOs and secret government programs, a movement began. One of the earliest documents cited was a 1996 U.S. Air Force paper titled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. The report wasn't secret, but it was enough. For chemtrail believers, this was proof that militaries were already planning to control the weather, and the skies above had become their testing ground. Contrails or chemicals? Scientifically, contrails are simple. Jet engines produce water vapor, which freezes into ice crystals in cold, humid air. Sometimes they vanish quickly, sometimes they spread and persist. It depends on temperature, altitude, and humidity. But for chemtrail believers, that explanation doesn't cut it. They point to trails at low altitudes, trails forming grids across the sky, or ones that expand until the whole horizon turns milky white. Videos from the early 2000s compared modern skies to footage from the 1950s, claiming contrails never used to behave this way. What changed? They ask. To them, the answer isn't climate or technology, it's intent. The internet takes over. Then came YouTube. Suddenly everyone had a camera and a platform. By 2005, thousands of videos showed skies filled with crisscrossing trails. Some zoomed in on planes with odd nozzles, claiming to show chemicals being sprayed. Others linked mysterious illnesses to heavy air traffic days. Online communities like Chemtrail Watch, Global Sky Watch, and Stop the Spray formed. Hashtags like #lookup and #theylie-to-us began trending. Each new upload brought more believers, teachers, pilots, doctors, even parents who swore their kids were getting sick every time the sky turned hazy. The internet didn't just spread the theory, it gave it life, turning chemtrails from fringe whispers into a global conversation. The weather weapon. The idea of weather control isn't fantasy. It's real and old. In the 1960s, the U.S. government ran Project Popeye, using silver iodide to seed clouds during the Vietnam War, hoping to extend the monsoon season and flood enemy routes. It worked. Since then, nations have explored geoengineering, manipulating weather to combat droughts, hurricanes, or global warming. But chemtrail believers think it's gone much further. They say modern cloud seeding has evolved into large-scale climate manipulation, spraying metallic particles like aluminum, barium, or strontium to reflect sunlight or alter weather patterns. In their eyes, every sky-crossing jet isn't just a flight. It's a tool of environmental warfare, the population control hypothesis. For others, the motive is more sinister, population control. Rumors spread that chemicals in the atmosphere contained sterilizing agents, neurotoxins, or pathogens. Photos of mysterious fibers found after spraying circulated online, with claims of strange illnesses, fatigue, and metallic taste in the air. The theory gained traction after whistleblower claims, often anonymous, alleged that private contractors were mixing substances into jet fuel. None of these claims were proven, but the imagery was powerful. In a world where governments have tested on citizens before, from MKUltra to Tuskegee, the idea didn't seem impossible. The mind control connection. Some believers go further, saying chemtrails are part of psychological or electromagnetic manipulation. They claim nanoparticles released in the atmosphere create a conductive layer, amplifying frequencies from ground-based systems like HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. According to this view, chemtrails aren't just about control of the environment, but of consciousness, a global test in altering thought, emotion, and mood through invisible means. Mainstream scientists call it impossible, but for many, the word impossible is what they said about spying on your phone too. HAARP, the mysterious facility. Built in Alaska, HAARP's stated mission is simple: to study the ionosphere, a layer of Earth's atmosphere that affects communication and radar. But chemtrail believers see it differently. They claim HAARP's massive antenna arrays are capable of heating sections of the atmosphere, steering weather systems, or triggering earthquakes. The official site says it's scientific research, but photos of lightning-like beams, glowing skies, and strange auroras fuel suspicion. If HAARP manipulates the ionosphere and chemtrails make it more conductive, the pieces to some fit too perfectly. The denials. Governments and scientists have repeatedly denied the existence of any chemtrail program. NASA, NOAA, the U.S. Air Force, and the EPA have all published statements confirming no evidence of chemical spraying has ever been found. In 2016, 77 atmospheric experts published a study in Environmental Research Letters, analyzing over 70 alleged chemtrail samples. The conclusion? Ordinary pollution, dust, and contrails. But denial to a conspiracy believer isn't proof of innocence. It's a sign of how deep the cover-up goes. Science and skepticism. Meteorologists explain that persistent contrails can spread into cirrus clouds under certain conditions. Satellite imagery confirms these patterns match normal jet traffic routes. Air quality tests find no unusual concentrations of aluminum or barium. Yet science often loses not because it's wrong, but because it's cold. Data can't compete with fear. Facts don't trend. And when fear feels real, science feels irrelevant. The spread of the movement. By the 2010s, chemtrail activism had gone global. Protests erupted in Berlin, Los Angeles, and London. People carried signs reading, "Stop spraying us," and "Our sky, our air." Groups organized sky awareness days, urging citizens to film planes and share footage. Some even confronted pilots, demanding answers. Governments were forced to respond. The UK Parliament and the US Congress both received petitions to investigate. Each time, officials reaffirmed the same answer: there's no chemtrail program. But that only strengthened the believers' resolve, because if it wasn't true, why respond at all? The power of imagery. A single photo can spark belief. A sunset sky with trails fanning out like spiderwebs looks unnatural, almost artistic, but also eerie. When those photos are posted next to captions like "Wake up" or "They're spraying again today," they gain emotional power. Online, visuals matter more than facts. A hazy sky can feel like evidence, and millions of likes can turn speculation into certainty. In the age of social media, seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing. The health connection. Many chemtrail believers connect spraying with spikes in respiratory illness, allergies, or fatigue. Doctors counter that air pollution, pollen, and industrial smog are far more likely culprits. But believers argue, if chemtrails aren't real, why do these symptoms appear right after heavy spray days? The human mind craves patterns. It links coincidence with causation. When you're afraid, every cough feels like proof. The politics of the sky. Politics often inflames the debate. Some see chemtrails as a tool of global elites, a weapon for controlling food supply, altering weather for profit, or enforcing climate policy. Others think it's a cover for military operations, radar testing, stealth technology, or atmospheric experiments. The truth is, modern militaries do test in the sky, but those tests are usually public. In a world where satellites track everything, hiding an entire spraying operation would require silence from thousands of people. Yet, the lack of leaks only deepens the mystery. The real science of geoengineering. Geoengineering, unlike chemtrails, is a real field of study. Scientists propose injecting aerosols, usually sulfur dioxide, into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight and combat climate change. The idea mirrors what volcanoes naturally do, but it's controversial. Critics fear it could change rainfall patterns or damage the ozone. No major country has done it at scale, but the mere discussion reignited chemtrail fears. Because to skeptics, proposal means already happening. When science meets suspicion, it's easy to dismiss chemtrails as a delusion, but that ignores what drives belief: mistrust. After decades of secret programs, nuclear tests, mind control experiments, propaganda, many citizens simply stopped believing official stories. When science tells them there's nothing to see, they hear, "You're not allowed to look." That tension between expertise and experience is what fuels conspiracies more than any chemical could. The psychological trap. Conspiracies offer something addictive: power. Believing you see what others don't gives meaning in a confusing world. Chemtrails are more than a theory. They're a worldview. Once you believe, every cloud confirms it. Every denial reinforces it. It's not ignorance, it's identity. And once it becomes identity, facts no longer matter. The global impact. From Germany to Brazil, India to Canada, chemtrail groups now number in the hundreds of thousands. In some countries, they've influenced local policy, pushing officials to test air and soil samples. The movement has become part environmental, part political, part spiritual. Some say chemtrails are about population control, others about awakening humanity to hidden truths. Different beliefs, same sky. Science versus story. So what do we really have? On one side, decades of atmospheric science, data, and research saying the trails are ice crystals and exhaust. On the other, millions of eyewitnesses convinced they're seeing something sinister. It's not just a battle for truth, it's a battle for trust. And that's the hardest thing to restore once it's broken. Final word: the sky doesn't lie. Maybe the chemtrail theory isn't about the sky at all. Maybe it's about us, our fear of losing control, our doubt in authority, our hunger for truth in a world of lies. We stare at the heavens and wonder what's real. Are we breathing science or secrets? In the end, every trail fades. But the questions, those linger. Because sometimes what we fear most isn't what's above us. It's what's inside us. Doubt.